that is actually the core of all of my work. I started basically my awe with the ocean started way more from imagination and then slowly turned into science. So I used to draw, I used to invent creatures that could exist in the ocean before I even understood what the ocean was. Um, and that dive that I did, which is, it wasn't a dive, it was a snorkel. It was even before this particular time when I was inventing creatures, I was at the time researching movement of clouds because, you know, at the core I was a really hippie girl. um, and then I went to Bahia that one time, and there is always this anamorphous shape and condition of clouds that I really love because it's really about the perception of who is seeing the clouds that relates to the forms that they're forming. You understand what I mean? So that was something that I was really interested in and captivated by. But then when I went to Bahia after this huge storm, I went to the beach, and the beach was covered in seaweed and algae from shapes and sizes and colors, different, all different ones. And while I was walking at the beach, these formations of algae designed on the sand were the same anamorphous shapes that I was looking in the clouds. So that connection for me was like land and sky was immediate. And then I started drawing these algae that were like these shapes and forms that were very fluid. And that's how I got into the ocean for the first time. And then the crazy thing about my work is every time I dive or every time I have a connection with the ocean that is real, I moved closer to science. Because it started to show me exactly what it was there. And the reality was just as good as, if not even better than what I could imagine. So that understanding was what shifted my practice from an imaginative based practice to a scientific based practice. I went again after that. I went to Bahia again because Bahia is my love. Like I've been there many times, and that's my my first connection and my first understanding of the ocean came from there. So one of the other times I was in Bahia, I was sitting at the beach with my notebook and drawing these floating islands that I would call them at the time. That was this mix in between the ethereal movement of a cloud and the fluidity of the line of the algae that I saw on the sand. And that meshed up together to form these floating islands that I used to draw. And I was just sitting at the beach drawing, and this man approached me and he looked at me and he was like, "Are you drawing the coral reef?" And I was like, yeah. And then he was like, "Well, have you ever seen them for real? Because, you know, like, it doesn't seem like you have." And then I was like, "Yeah, you're this guy, you know." And then I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen them with my own eyes, but I would love to." And then I, you know, started drawing again. The guy disappears, vanishes. 20 minutes later, he comes to me with a pair of snorkels and fins. He looks at me and he's like, "Okay, so I'm going to take you to see the reef because it looks like you need to meet them." I was like, "Okay, stranger that I've never seen in my life, I will follow you inside of the ocean, you know?" But I wasn't Bahia. Bahia it's just, there's a movement, a magical movement about that state that is different from everywhere else that I've been. So I trusted the river and I went with it. And then we were walking and talking about my experiences, and you know, I am an artist and whatever. And then we get to this barren beach, and he was like, "Well, it's here. Let's go in." Once we were in, and I had like we were swimming, and we got to the point where he wanted to show me. He's kind of looked at me while we were swimming, and he said, "Are you ready?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." So he was like, "So put your snorkels in, and I'm gonna dive, and you follow me." I was like, "Okay." So as soon as I breached the surface, this man pushed me under and shoves me inside of this tiny cave that was completely 360 degrees filled with corals all through the walls. And there were cracks on the top, and the light was penetrating it, revealing and obscuring colors and shapes and forms and textures. In the bottom, I saw a spotted ray and tiny little fish swaying from side to side, and tiny little critters just grabbing marine snow. That was the epitome of the change of my life. That moment shaped everything that I've worked through for the past 14 years. And the craziest thing is, I don't know the man's name. I've never seen him again. And he has no idea the impact he generated on me. He completely blew my mind away because he saw me for who I was and knew what I needed. A stranger, Raymond. That was, that's why after that, I devoted all of my life and my whole practice and my whole existence to serve the ocean. Because encounters like that don't happen to many people. And I felt blessed and lucky and extremely illuminated to be able to have that experience.